This is a quick how-to on creating buttons within Excel and assigning a macro to that particular button, particularly macros that we record. So the data set that we're looking at here is the US states and regions and their population based on Wikipedia data that I just put in this Excel spreadsheet. And in this case, we're going to create a button that will divide the entire numbers by 1,000,000 in case people want to look at it in that format. And likewise, to correct that action, we're going to have a button to multiply by 1,000,000. So the first step I like to do is create the button itself. And we do that by going to the Developer tab. If this doesn't show up as one of your options, you can simply press and hold Alt while you hit the F11 key, and this should appear. Once you have this up, you're going to go to Insert, Form Controls, Button. Now make sure that you're under Form Controls and not ActiveX Controls, or you're going to have to follow a completely different list of steps. But we're going to go under Form Controls, Button, and you're going to get a crosshair icon where you can drag and drop a button wherever you want. In this case, we're going to put it right next to our data set, and we're going to name our macro. In this case, we're going to call it Divide by 1,000,000. You can choose any naming convention you like. I just like to be consistent. In my case, I eliminate spaces and capitalize the first letter of every word. And now what we're going to do is record this actual macro that's assigned to this particular button. And we're going to go ahead and hit record. It's going to just double check that we want to name this and whether we want a shortcut. I'm going to do one just for an example. Control L will be this particular shortcut. So I can either hit the button or I can hit Control L to divide everything by 1,000,000. We're going to hit OK, and at this point you're going to see a little icon up here that says stop recording. So at this point we're going to do everything that we want to do to our data that this button will ultimately do, and then we're going to hit stop recording. So since we want to divide everything by 1,000,000, I'm going to pick a random cell and write out 1,000,000, right click, copy, and I'm going to paste special divide, and we see everything now gets divided by 1,000,000. Now it's important to note, since I copied and pasted from a cell that doesn't have the same formatting as was originally in this cell, if I click this button, it's going to divide this by 1,000,000 and it's going to leave it in this crummy format. So before I hit stop recording, I need to go back and reformat this to the way that I like, and the macro then will return it to however I leave it in this format. So in this case, I'm going to put it in number format to 1 decimal place. And so when we hit this button, it's going to divide by 1,000,000 and return it to this format here. So we're going to go ahead and hit stop recording. And now if I hit this button, it's going to divide this number again by 1,000,000. And so it's going to be a tiny number. So let's check that out. And we see, in fact, it is a tiny number, and I can prove that by going out a bunch of decimal places. So we're going to create a button that will fix this. And remember, we made this Control L as the shortcut, but we're going to look into that a little bit later. Now that the numbers are already so small, let's go ahead and rename this button. We're going to right-click and hit Edit, and just call this Divide by 1,000,000. So we remember what that is. We're going to go ahead and go to Developer and create the next button that will multiply by 1,000,000. We're going to say multiply by 1,000,000. Hit record. Hit OK. We're going to do the same process. Write 1,000,000 in a random cell. Copy, paste special, multiply, and since this is not the format we want, let's go ahead and tell it how we want it to look when we're done. And we want it to be a number with decimals to 1 decimal place. We're going to also delete this so it doesn't show up after the record. We're going to go back to Developer and hit stop recording. And now this button knows to multiply the population cells by 1,000,000. And we see if we click off with the little hand icon, it does exactly that, puts the commas in one decimal place. And we can also divide it again by 1,000,000, multiply it indefinitely by 1,000,000, divide indefinitely by 1,000,000. Now, let's go ahead and multiply it by 1,000,000 so we're back to the original numbers. And remember, if I hit and hold Control L, it's going to do the same thing as this button because we assigned that shortcut to it. So those are two little quick buttons that we've created. Obviously, you can record any action that you're going to do repeatedly and assign it to a button, and you're going to follow the same exact steps. Just remember, macros are effectively stupid. They're going to do exactly what you tell it. So if you leave crummy formatting or you leave random numbers out while you're recording and hit stop record, it will do those exact same things. So just remember to really think it through. It's not a race. I always felt like really rushed when I first did it, and there's really no time limit on it. Just take your time, think everything through, and this is how you create buttons with assigned macros to them. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope this helps.